Wait, welcome back to the X Podcast. New year, new you.
I'm new.
This is what you always say. New year, new you.
you.
It is a brand new year.
I
feel.
feel
You look fresh.
I feel fresh.
rested.
I feel ready for a new year.
Yeah.
Ready for a fast.
Are you a big New Year guy? Big New Year goals?
What do you mean by
resolution?
I do feel like big.
Yeah.
Big guy
All that
for a year.
chicken.
All that food over the
that
break.
turkey.
I feel good. Had a birthday.
Mhm.
I am 39, and so
Yeah, you were
So-
a decade ago.
yeah, whoa. Okay, I'm not that old. Stop it. He's lying again. So, anyways, it was a good break, and here we are, New Year. I do like New Year. I think I look forward to it,
Mhm.
partially because I'm all about like reset,
Yeah.
mind reset, okay, what am I gonna do this year for health? What am I gonna do this year? So I do feel like I start off the year with a lot of fire. And I'm very consistent and very routine person. But when I get toward the end of the year, it's where I think I kind of start getting a little lazy on like what I'm eating, what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
so I feel like
Yeah, this year I feel like more than most, I've thought a lot about the new year before the new year came.
yeah.
And I feel like back in November, I'm like, I'm kind of ready to step into a new year.
And
Mhm.
let's talk about what that new year is.
Yeah.
The year,
Year of the goat. That's right. For anybody out there who's
Yay.
been misled to think that the LeBron James is the greatest, he is one of the greatest.
Yes, he is. He's inched up pretty close, but
Mhm.
no, it's the year of the goat.
of the goat.
It is my it is on my agenda to
To
I would like to probably by the time this year is out.
meet Michael Jordan.
Oh, that would be great.
Mhm.
I think I probably will. I'm venturing to say I'm going to own about 5 or 6 pair of Jordans. I feel like I've like at this new hobby quest. I got
Yeah.
my first pair last year.
Yeah.
I got a pair of Jordan 6s that came out that are just, I love them. They're awesome. And I always wanted Jordans when I was a kid, and I never could afford them. And then life moved on, and I didn't follow the whole like Jordan craze because they're still crazy. I mean, it's amazing. They just, every month, every couple weeks, there's a new release date, and there's a new, the 11s, the 9s just came out. They got the 4s. They got Iron Ore 4s coming out in like June or July of this year. They're awesome. I really would like to get my hands on. The challenge is getting your hands on them.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like it's like my new thing because I like shoes and so it's like, okay, it's getting some Jordans, some ones I want. So I mean, you just get them. I've turned down several pairs that I could buy. They're expensive, so I'm not just going to buy them. The ones I want. So this is the year of the GOAT. This is the year of Michael Jordan. This is number 23. I think it's going to be the year of collecting Jordans. Some.
You should do it.
I think I'm going to. If I can afford to, I'm gonna do
You
it.
can play more golf this year? I feel like
I
feel
am.
like you got more back into golf last year.
I
too. We didn't talk about that.
I played
but-
golf at the end of last year. I need to buy a new set of clubs. I really do. I was looking. I went and kind of did a little bit of a fitting, and then I didn't spend the money on them because it was a lot of money. So,
How much?
oh, they were like new iron. I can't believe how much they've gone up. New irons were like $1,200, $1,300
Holy smokes.
just for the irons. I need to replace my bag. There's a lot of things I need to do. Anyways, but I did. I started playing a little bit. I played once or twice, and I was like, that was kind of fun. I actually played well, and I beat the guy.
Yeah.
And I hadn't played golf in like a year. And I had fun. And so that, when you play well, it just kind of gets you hooked back into it. So I don't think I'll ever be like crazy like I was
But
into
you felt
it.
the momentum of it.
But I did. I felt it. So I felt like I'm going to be a golfer this year.
Okay, so let's talk about how to make this year different. Because we, in our faith context, we're starting a 21 days of prayer and fasting.
Yeah.
And kind of our tagline under it is this year will be different.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe 22 was amazing for you, but I'm sure you still want to make this year better.
Yes.
Or maybe 2022 did not go how you planned. Beauty of it is,
First of all,
it is a new year. Yes.
no year goes how you plan.
That's true.
Let's be honest.
Maybe it didn't go as good as you planned. Let's say that. Maybe it didn't go as good
Yeah.
as you'd hoped.
Yeah.
But 2023, there are things out of our control that we don't know could be coming.
Yep.
But there are things that we can do to posture ourselves, leverage our lives in the right direction. So let's talk about a few of those things.
Well, just as you were saying that, I think every year there are unexpected things, good and bad.
Mhm.
Like I said, we found out that our daughter is pregnant, her and her husband. So, there's like good things that happen that are unexpected. There's bad things that happen that are unexpected. I think when I think about how do I make this year different, the first thing that comes to my mind is I will not be able to control all of those external things.
Yep.
But if I can make the internal part of me different, how I respond to them, how I walk through them, how I handle them, what I'm like on the other side of them, that's going to determine whether or not this is a good different or a bad different year. Because there's going to, that is the sad realities. You could sit with all the hope in the world at the beginning of the year. This is going to be the greatest year. I remember when 2020 came around and we did a series. It was this is the year of vision. I was like, new decade. It's 2020. It's a year of vision. We did the whole series on these cards, and then 3, weeks after the series, 5 weeks after the series, just
the world
shut down, and it was like that was a year from Hades.
Yep.
And so again, I think when we think about how do I make this year different, or it will be different, is not a declaration that only good stuff's going to happen to me. It's a declaration that I'm going to take the necessary steps to change what needs to change, to move, to create some momentum in my life this year.
That's good. One of the things that we do, so let's talk about how do we do that. I think, one of the practical, it's both practical and spiritual. One of the things that we do is we begin every year with 21 days of prayer and fasting.
Yeah.
So we're a spiritual community. And so part of that is we believe that the greatest dimension and level of reality is actually spiritual. That spiritual isn't peripheral. Spiritual is actually essential. It's central to who we are as human beings, to what life's all about. There's more going on in the unseen than the seen. And who we're becoming, the core of who we're becoming, is actually what's going to filter out to every aspect of our lives. So that's part of it. Another part of it is this whole concept of the power of firsts. There's an element to that that's more biblical. There's something all through Old Testament, and we would say continues through New Testament, the power of first fruits, that the first and best of my life I'm going to bring to God. And in doing so, it's a tangible way to put him first and to prioritize eternal things. It's another way to put my heart and my posture in the right place. And then we also believe that there is, in the spiritual world, blessing and reward that comes, and it kind of orders everything else in our lives. There's this, I can't remember what translation, but there's a translation of a verse that says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. There's one translation that says, seek first and foremost God, and it'll order the rest of your life. And so I'm a big believer in that. That what you do first brings order to what comes next. And so, but I think there's a lot of applications to that. So there's the first and the best. First fruits a lot of times in Old Testament and a church context is financial. I'm going to put God first in my finances. I'm going to trust him first. But I think there's so many applications of that could be powerful. I think I noticed that how I begin my day matters. And whether you're talking spiritual or secular, there's so many things that talk about the most important part of your day is what you do first. Your first 20 minutes, your first 2 hours.
Yeah.
I read a book in 2016 by a guy, not a guy of faith at all, but it was a self-published book called The Miracle Morning, and it was about the 6 habits of what he does first in the morning. And he was this, I think if I remember right, this broke college kid who stumbled onto these 6 things, and he did it first and became wildly successful. Wildly successful financially, in career, in relationships, and even just his internal sense of meaning and purpose. And it was like the 6 things I do every morning. And it started with something as simple as I'm going to brush my teeth first every morning and drink a glass of water. 2, I'm going to have visualization. I'm going to have meditation. I'm going to have all these things. And so anyways, I thought it'd be interesting to talk for a few moments, whether you're listening and you would consider yourself a faith person or not. What does it look like to leverage the power of firsts? What does it look like to leverage your day, your week, your month? What do you do? Do you have any of those principles in your life of putting something first, whether it's your year or your day, that you've seen the momentum of that?
Yeah, for me, like you mentioned earlier when you were just saying that, I immediately thought, okay, the very first 2 things that I prioritize as part of my well-being is my spiritual and physical.
Okay.
So probably somewhere in there be good to tie in emotional, but I probably don't. So sometimes with spiritual I do, depending on how I'm, processing a devotional or journaling or something like that. But so after I get up and get ready for that day, like my regular routine is to have a portion of reading the Bible, prayer, devotional type of moment. Like that's
Okay.
I try to do that consistently.
Mhm.
Try to do that, throughout the week, every day. But that really is. So I get up pretty early. My alarm's about 5:30. It was earlier than that when I was writing.
Mhm.
And so 5:30, actually it might be 5:38. Is that weird? Do you set your alarm for exact amounts? Like, is it even numbers?
Yeah,
Mine's 5:39 right now. Monday,
Really?
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is 5:39.
Why?
Sunday is 5:29.
Wait, why?
I don't know. And then I don't set one. I try not to set one. I still do get up. Sometimes I do on Fridays. I don't have to get up early now on Fridays, but I still go to the gym Friday morning. So I do. I don't know. I think it had something to do with, snooze time was 9 minutes. And so I'd hit that once and it didn't make sense. I don't know. I just picked random numbers. I don't know. It was very weird. It's not very type A.
Very weird.
Yeah. I think I always try to inch it back. So it's like, okay, if it was 5:40 and you hit snooze, then you end up here. So why don't you bump it back to like 5:38? And I don't know, weird. But anyways, so I try to, it's pretty much about 5 or 6 days a week. I probably try to get up around that time. I don't as much set an alarm. I try not to if I don't have to, like on a Friday or Saturday. I still usually get up 6:30 or 7 and go to the gym, go do whatever. I don't really sleep in. But so I always try to kind of start my day, orient my day with a moment just reading scripture. I don't really read other books in my devotional time. I don't really do that. I know some people do. Maybe you do. I don't know. I usually just the Bible. Sometimes I journal or just pray after that with it.
I usually don't, but when with if I'm in the middle of a book like Burning My Bones, Eugene Peterson, that's like really
grab it.
speaking to me, then after scripture and journal or whatever, I'll read bits. I'll read a chapter.
Yeah.
I've been doing that. I've been reading through Dallas Willard's Renovations of the Heart, and that's been a good supplemental.
Yeah.
After scripture, I'll read a chapter.
That's good. So I usually will start my day with that, and then I'll usually begin before I go to work. I go to the gym, and so I do it at least 4 or 5 days.
So
a
you
week.
never go to the gym after work?
Never.
Hmm.
Always before.
Hmm.
I would say never. Every once in a while. And if my family wanted to go or something, then I'd go with them sometimes or whatever. But no, usually in the morning, first thing. So that's I find that by the time I get home after work, I'm either too distracted, I get too tired, I go to this, that it doesn't become priority for me.
What do you do after work?
Go home, usually make dinner or whatever, get ready for dinner with my wife, whatever we're doing or whatever, if Audrey, and then usually just hang out with her, whatever we want to do. Sometimes we go, it's so weird because we've noticed this. In the summer, when there's lots of daylight, do all kinds of things. In the winter, it's 6:30 and we're like, man, I'm ready to put I don't really wear pajamas, but I'm ready to put my pajamas on. She does, it's like she wears like sweatpants. I'm ready to put myself ready to get in bed. You know how it gets dark at 5 o'clock? You get home, you feel like, man, my day's over. 6:37, it just feels weird.
What time do you actually get in bed?
10:30, 11, 11:30. I mean, I don't actually go to bed. That's the problem. Get in bed could get in bed at, we were watching last month, we were watching Wednesday, the series. And so we're like, oh, you want to watch that, show? And it was like, okay, 9 o'clock or something. But the problem is from getting up early is I tend to fall asleep when I'm watching this stuff. 10 o'clock, but I'll kind of wake up, power through, and then I'm up till 12, 12:30. It's not great.
And then get.
I think I need to do better at getting more sleep. I'm really bad about it.
Yeah, I'm bad at it.
And they say that getting sleep is really helpful for losing weight, is helpful for working out, for
a lot of
muscle.
science now is saying, even with the power of exercise and the power of nutrition, the king component is actually sleep above all else.
I don't know if that's true, but anyways, that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying right now.
But so I just kind of have a regular rhythm, or I feel like I got to get those done before I go to work.
Okay.
What about you?
There is something really special about that. Oh, it just depends on the season. If I'm doing really well, like I don't know. All else being equal, a typical day, I'll get up around 6:30, and my rhythm in the morning is I'll have a little JBL. I'll put it on. I have a morning kind of playlist. This more like worship devotional. I'll put it on. I'll do my pour over coffee rhythm. Bring over my coffee. Have devotions and maybe journal. Maybe read a little bit.
Yeah. I don't do it every day. I do it maybe a couple times a week, 3 times maybe. Well,
then after I'm done with coffee and devotions, I will make breakfast. I'm a big breakfast person, so I'll always make like eggs and sausage and stuff in the morning, and get ready and get to work. And then
you work out in the evening.
In the evenings,
and you do it in the.
And then sometimes I'll depending on I've
the last
in 2022 I did decent amount of consistent writing. So depending on how passionate I was about trying to move towards a goal, I will say early in the fall, probably like July through October, I would get up sometimes around 5 or 5:30, have devotions, then write for an hour.
Yeah.
I'm
gearing up for that because I started one and then I have not been consistent at all. But that's one thing, like New Year's, when there is something almost like mentally that flips and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to start.
You know what I mean? It's bad. We really shouldn't need just a calendar change to get us motivated to do something. And that's why I always kind of hate toward the end of the year by December. I feel like I end up getting lazy in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's January.
Yeah. And now there's a lot of studies coming out that say, you know what, you should give your body that natural circadian rest a little in the winter to recoup. And, you know, I don't know. But anyways, so I normally work out in the evenings. Depending on what time I leave, I always say that I'm going to have my gym clothes with me and leave and get to the gym by 5:15. It never happens because I'm usually leaving off between 5:15, 5:45, and then I'm going home because I forgot something. And then by the time I get coffee or pre-workout or whatever I'm doing and get there, it's 6 o'clock. And then in the winter, we talk about kind of this phenomenon, especially when it's cold outside. Sometimes for far too long, once I get to the gym, I'm curious, anybody listening to this, you do the same thing. I will sit there. I will sit in the car for 10 minutes before I actually go in. And I've noticed a big difference between my energy level to really lean into a workout at 5:15 versus 6:15. Once it gets 6:15, 6:30, 7 o'clock, no. Worse.
Really?
So if I can, in an ideal world, if I could work whenever the heck I wanted to, I would go to the gym around 3 o'clock. Because for whatever reason, early afternoon, my body responds really well.
Really?
Or early afternoon. I've gone sometimes in the mornings, like last week, randomly one morning, I got up, I was like, I want to work out before work. And I did it, and it was really good. Working out super early like you do, my body doesn't respond too early.
I'm usually not there till like 7:30. That's not that early.
Yeah.
7:30. 7:40. By the time I
that would be too late for me because I probably spend too much luxurious time in the gym.
Yeah, you have to stay pretty focused. You get done in an hour.
Because part of going at night that I enjoy is I have community there.
Yeah.
But the other part is
you sit in the sauna for 3 hours. You sit in the sauna until you're wrinkled.
20 minutes.
Till you're an old grape.
It's usually 15 to 20 minutes. I just love the sauna. To me, that's one of my favorite parts of the day. Yeah. So after a good workout, get my protein shake, get my playlist, go in the sauna, and just, it's so relaxing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So anyways, that's mine.
So we that's like regular rhythm.
That's regular
And then
rhythm.
start of the new year. I think I've really embraced, the last several years, I think even more so in looking forward to the fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's your experience with it?
Like in the past, like what's my experience with it been?
Yeah. Like why do you enjoy it so much? What power or benefits have you experienced through it?
Yeah. I think it, for a few reasons. One, I think it helps re-center me spiritually, really kind of, sparking something. I feel like, like I said, I feel like almost by the time I get to the end of every year, I feel like I'm a little bit, and maybe it happens somewhat spiritually. I mean, I'm still doing my devotions or that, but I feel like even in my mindset, I get almost autopilot, end of the year. And I don't know, there's something about maybe the break from Christmas to New Year that we do that kind of rejuvenates me. Going into the new year, I get excited about, this year, this is what I'm going to do. I kind of get my mind wrapped around that. And then I think the fast kind of really helps it helps me get recentered spiritually, but it also helps me get back in the mode of discipline. That's a side benefit.
Yeah.
It's not the primary reason, but a side benefit is it helps me reestablish discipline in my life.
I like that. The reestablishment of discipline.
And it's, again, it's not like my primary reason, but I do think it is a big benefit that for 21 days of the discipline of saying no, the discipline of even I sometimes try to be like really consistent in my workouts and other things. It's like, it's almost like I like to approach the fast at the beginning of the year more holistic, not just spiritual. But how can I also reset myself physically? How do I reset my mind? How do I reset my you know what I mean? Like, how do I reset all of that during that period of that fast?
Do you find it hard to focus? The power of focus for a spiritual fast is the spiritual.
Yeah.
For me, at times I've struggled with, if I'm doing that, I'm like, I'm paying attention to
what
weight I'm losing, or whatever else other than. Do you struggle?
Yeah.
Or is it for you?
No.
It's just holistically it works.
Yeah, I don't know that's never been a big struggle in that regard. I think one thing that could be a great idea to do during the fast, maybe I'll do that this year. Because you do, and again, I always want to try to do things for the right reason, but that there's like, oh, here's a side benefit of I need to eat better.
Right.
So I'm going to also deny myself things that
is also
I would want to do, which it is. And so, but then you can be so focused. It's that whole 40X thing we do at church. Is that whole, I'm focused so much on the lag measure rather than the lead measure.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. And so I think a good practice, and maybe this is something that we could do during the fast together.
All right.
We're not allowed to get on the scale.
Okay.
Maybe we do that.
Yeah.
We're not distracted by it. I get on the scale until probably more recently where I can really tell, but I get on the scale almost every day. Some of that was a little bit of my accountability partner. So, when I see it inching up, I'm like, yeah, I've been really undisciplined in my eating. I've been this, so I need to kind of rein it back in. Let's eat well for this. Let's go have a fun moment on this day. That let's not just do it whenever and however much.
Right.
And so that's my accountability partner. But I think it could sometimes go, oh, I'm not seeing the results that I want. Well, okay, I don't want that to be a distraction as why I'm doing the fast. It could be a nice side benefit, but it's not the reason for it.
What, going back, because I like that term, reestablishment of disciplines. What are, if you can be vulnerable, what are some disciplines you feel like you've let slide? Do you have any that you want to reclaim or reestablish in the new year?
So I think what always happens for me, I'll give one spiritual one, and I'll give one maybe practical one, natural one. Spiritual discipline is I will be consistent in my devotional time, but there's just seasons where it becomes it's good that it's a habit, but it doesn't have the emotional energy that I think I really want to put toward it, or I should put toward it.
Right.
So, it can become that whole, I check a box off.
Yeah.
I do this, and I don't want it to be that way, but I also think there's a power of being consistent even in seasons when you don't feel it every time.
Right.
And so I'm very consistent, and I don't, really get behind. If I miss a day or so, I don't beat myself up, but I'm like, I'll catch up and I'll be there. Sometimes I'm ahead. I was really ahead most of 22 last year because I went from doing a 7-day plan to a 5-day plan. And that was kind of different even in going, okay, what do I do on those 2 days? And, how do I really...
So I always approach that differently for some reason.
What? Those 2 days?
Yeah, I always forget that it's a 5-day plan.
Yeah.
I do it every day, and then I just give myself permission to... Maybe it's because in the back of my mind, I know it's
that you're ahead.
A 5-day plan. But I give myself permission to camp out.
Yeah, so I would just, and that's cool. I would just go because I'm used to every day of the week and do this. And then when doing the 5-day plan, I'm like, oh, I'm really far ahead, and then I can relax a little bit. But then it's, but I don't want that. I want that consistent rhythm, however that looks. So for me, I think there is, when I put the mental energy into the fast, which is, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. I mean, I have to prepare this. I have to think this. I'm not going to eat these things. When I do that, there's something about it that gets me, I think, even more emotionally invested in my spiritual time.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's something that kind of, I want to say, and I think when you deny yourself one thing and lean to another, I do think that God meets you in that, and it can ignite a little bit of something inside of you. And so for me, it's kind of, and it doesn't always feel like that going through every fast, but a lot of times, I have. I want it to ignite an excitement for those moments, those personal moments again.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe they were on autopilot.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes the fast can help do that.
Yeah.
Plus we add to that like additional things. So it's not my regular, but we're having a time of prayer together. We have a time that we first of every Wednesday of every month that we're like, hey, we're already here praying. It's rhythm that we had, and we're like, well, let's just see if anybody wants to come. They can come in the morning.
Right.
And so I think that's been good. In the natural, I think the benefit has been for me is to get myself disciplined in what I eat.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and I'm kind of one of those people. I'm not a good on and off person. I'm like a light switch. I'm like either it's always on or it's not always good. You know what I mean? Like what I eat.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's something about the habit of doing something. Like 2 years ago, I was like, I'm going to use the fast in a way to also go, this is going to kickstart a change in my eating habits. And I did that 2 years ago. I'm 21, and I just kept, I added things in that I didn't allow myself to have for the fast that I really liked. I drink only water when I did it, and for my drink. And and I cut out all sugars and sweets and even like substitute sweets.
Right.
Like if I do it, if I'm not doing sweets, I'm not going, well, in keto, you can have these because it's not sugar, it's erythritol. No, I cut out all the sweets. And so I allowed myself a little bit of that here, but I kept really strict for 6 months straight. And then I allowed myself a little bit, but I kept for the most part for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I feel like I let myself kind of go, so to speak, over this past like several months more than ever. And so I kind of look at it as like, okay, this can be an opportunity for me to embrace what habit comes out of this, which is a discipline in my eating. So the older I'm getting, the more important that is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess there's a spiritual aspect and there's a natural aspect probably. Yeah. What about you?
Several things. I think one is on the spiritual standpoint, one of the things I've noticed, especially the last few years, that I feel like maybe I've let lag for, it's kind of shameful to say a lot of the year, is how much more prayer I would want to be in my life. I would say I spend time with God every day. That's been kind of ingrained in my life for a long time. But specifically during fasting seasons, the amount of prayer.
Yeah.
Scripture kind of stays the same, but I'm adding so much more prayer. Like you said, where there's prayer nights, and then just the fact that you are fasting and that there is a spiritual emphasis and you're getting in more focus in that spiritual zone and going after God and seeking God. I just naturally pray a lot more, and that habit of extra prayer is being reestablished, I've noticed. I feel like during fasts, like it's a completely spiritual, unless you just do it for show or you do it and you're legalistic about it. It's pure spiritual, and I feel like it can be easy to read scripture with your head but not your heart. But I feel like it's harder to pray without your heart.
That's true.
It can be really easy to go through emotions and read scripture. It can, but I like how Leonard Ravenhill says it. He said, "There's no showing off in the prayer room."
Yeah.
When it's just you before God, it's just you naked before God, and all it is spirituality. All it is you doing real soul to soul work with God. All it is you getting in the presence of God, and so. Anyways, I feel like that is a habit that becomes reestablished.
Yeah.
For me. Then there's some practical things. I think kind of going back to the first of the day thing. I think one of the bad habits I've accumulated a lot, I feel like over the last half year, has been first thing in the morning, grabbing my phone, searching through news and social media and email, and I've gotten probably worse at that. I don't know why over the last few months than I've been in a long time. And so usually when I'm hitting reset, like you said, it's spiritual. Usually when I'm doing fasting, I kind of program it to where I'm also doing a dopamine reset.
Yeah.
I'm usually getting rid of social media For me, I'm getting rid of most of secular music, non-worship music. There's some obviously some food aspect to it, so it's a lot of it is a dopamine detox. That's helpful with food, with attention span, with mental and emotional focus and health. And so that's a lot of it. I think for me are those things. And I'm trying to think what else.
That's good. I think that's a good point. I think, what's interesting about a fast, and I want to say this just in case anybody's, watching or listening that's you not consider yourself a faith person. There are a lot of, I would say, non-religious groups and people that engage in fasts. Not just like a regular intermittent fasting, but actually will do fasts. There is something I think really powerful about the discipline of resisting something and saying no to something in your life. And so I'd just say too, if you're not a spiritual person, maybe the whole idea of like, prayer with God, that's just seems foreign to you. And you're like, I don't even know if God's real. That's fine. I encourage you. You can even, whether you do it kind of with our community or not, try it. Try and give yourself something that's like, give yourself 21 days or give yourself that's like, I'm not going to have, sugars. I'm not going to have coffee and, this or, or I'm only going to eat these things or do something like that. There's something I think that really does help motivate. I found that when it's hard at first. This is what I found. Coming off sugar, especially, I think is really hard. You know what I've also found just in the natural is 3 or 4 days into it, maybe 5 days into it, I stopped craving sugar. It is amazing. Like you can feel it the moment you stop. So I think that carries over to probably every area of your life. The things that you do on a daily basis that I'm not even talking about bad things. It's not like addiction to alcohol or drugs or, I'm talking about there are things that we do every single day that we don't realize that we've created an appetite for and we've created a dependency on in our bodies. And I think when you remove those things and all of a sudden you're like, so it's hard for a few days, but then I'm telling you, I get done. I'm like, I don't care if I have a sweet. I'm like, it really is. So I've always like, okay, how do I carry that forward? So I think even for a practical reason, try a fast.
What I want to start doing? Maybe offline we should create some of these. I think I've tried to with you before, but I love Chad Veach at the beginning of every month. He has a monthly challenge. It's like this month, no sweets. I'm going to run this many miles, whatever. It looks different every month, but every month he creates a month challenge. So that it's not like once a year I'm doing something hard. Because his whole thing is I do hard things. I don't know if you remember this, but he had a quote that I told you back in February. It was denial is more rewarding than indulgence. And I really kind of rallied around that for a while. I want to kind of reclaim that. Because I don't.
It is. There's something.
Like I always want to treat myself in a healthy way. But there is something more rewarding when you kind of grow your know, when you kind of grow your sense of restraint, because fasting is about as much what you're taking out as is what you're putting in. And so
that's why we try to incorporate combined in our spiritual community, prayer and fasting. You're removing something, but you're trying to increase the prayer aspect. And if you're not a spiritual person, you could remove some food thing. You could increase something. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's listening to positive things. Maybe it is listening to a message. Maybe you don't ever go to church, but maybe there's like, okay, I'll listen to some of these messages. Maybe somebody that you've heard of or someone you know what I mean? Any of ours. I want to listen to them and just, I think, be open-minded to it. And I do think that there is, to never require some discipline. It goes beyond just even that. I think there's something really powerful about discipline in your life. Like, I am so regimented in working out. It does not matter how I feel. It's on my schedule. I don't ever wake up and go, I just don't feel like going to the gym. That doesn't happen. I don't care how I feel. I'm going to the gym. I'm such a routine person and build it as a habit. And I love it and I enjoy it. But I mean, there's times when I'm like, oh man, I just don't feel, you got aches in this, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care if I'm sick. I mean, I won't go if I'm like sick, and I think it's this. But I mean, I don't feel good. I'm like, yeah, I need to go work out.
I've been thinking a lot about discipline lately, and like, there's so many aspects to it. There's this quote, I can't remember who said it, but they said that the irony of this strange life is that the most disciplined people are the most happy people. That's not always the case, but in many ways, discipline creates freedom and it creates the reward that other people only long for. But there's another thing about discipline I've been thinking a lot. It's this weird kind of secondary thing that you don't think about, and it's the relationship between discipline and self-esteem. That discipline is creating a reputation with yourself.
Yeah.
And that really, like, I think I'm sure I heard somebody say this, but like functionally, self-esteem in a Christian world, it's who I am in Jesus. That's where my value comes from. But there's a functional relationship where discipline actually builds your self-esteem.
Yeah.
It actually builds your self-confidence. It actually builds your own sense of self-respect. And a lot of times but it's this weird, tricky thing because I think so many times you want to wait to feel inspired.
Right.
And so, but the feeling usually doesn't come until afterwards.
Right.
And so
that's why we need a new year.
We need a new year.
To flip the calendar.
Yes.
The motivator.
And so here's like, I guess my question, because we're talking about like, I mean, one of the things that a prayer and fasting does, that you hope it does, is it creates momentum for the new year.
Yeah.
And so beyond the power of first, I guess just in closing is like, here's a question. What kind of momentum do you want to create for 2023? And it could be a lot of things. Like I have, and if you feel vulnerable, maybe you can share, there are things from 2022, maybe more internally than even just externally, that people know that I feel like, oh, I created a momentum here I don't like. I let there are little things maybe in thought processes or in emotions that I'm like, I want to reverse some momentum. And so one of the things I've been thinking going into 2023 is what are the areas of my life I want to create momentum? What kind of momentum do I want to create? And so what kind of momentum do you want to create?
I don't know that I've really kind of thought about that. It's like, I think more about what I'm going to do here versus thinking about what's the momentum I'm going to create.
Because what you're going to do are the choices. And I do think it's choices that create momentum.
Yeah.
But like, I just think, because there's nothing more powerful than compound interest.
Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than when momentum is at your back.
That's really good.
Is there anything that you would feel comfortable sharing from 2022 of momentum that you inadvertently created, maybe, that you're like?
Well, it is, like you said, I think that I was really good for a long time in having momentum of not jumping to my phone first thing. And I haven't really been on social media a lot, but I've hopped on a little bit here and more there, and it may not even be that. It might be news. I find myself, one of the first things that I want to do is like, okay, what news is out there? What article? And it's not a bad thing, but I think sometimes I can get kind of so lost in that I'm not really, in my estimation, I'm not creating that first space in my mind for God. And I can begin to get lost in it's almost that habit of going to phone.
Yeah.
And I feel like I broke it for a good year and a half. You know what I mean? Of like, and so I found that creeping in toward the end of 22 a little bit, just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like just spending a little bit more time doing that. I think also, one of the things that I want to create some momentum. I love listening to books. I will read some books. I think my wife and I have been in a kind of a weird space and zone in the fact that, we have one left in the house who is a senior, who's graduating, going to be going off to basics. So she's going to be gone for, several months and with what she's doing there, National Guard. And so we have found ourselves in kind of like a new season of, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I think by not really planning or preparing like I said, in the summer, I feel like we're always kind of like, oh, because it's light out. Let's go work on the yard. Let's go do this. I feel like we're more active. I feel like in the winter, we've gotten less active. And I know she's not a morning person working out. So I think I'd like to create some better habits and momentum in the last part of my day.
Yeah.
What could I read? What could, now we, and we love, like we talked about on a previous episode, some of the series, and that's kind of something we enjoy doing together, is watching a series, getting involved in it, and that's fun. But I think sometimes we can do that too much. Oh my gosh, we just did 3 hours. We just been straight. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, are there other better things we can? So we're productive. We're working all day. I think some of it is just, she works very hard, and she's gone up to, and so it's like, okay, I get up at 5:30, and I think by the time we get done, I'm tired, mentally tired, emotionally kind of. You've spent a lot for that day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like veg.
Right.
But I don't know. That's always the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best. So I've noticed that kind of creeping in. And so it's like, okay, what could we do? And again, it's kind of weird because when our kids were younger, we didn't have time for it.
Right.
We're running. I mean, there was something almost every evening. It was over the top. It was like running this one to practice, run that one to a game, run this one to that, run that one. So it was very busy. And then all of a sudden they reached a certain age, and then they stopped doing a lot of these activities, and they're moving on. And you're like, now what are we going to do? Because we have not had free time in the evening. You know what I mean? Sometimes to that extent. So I think how do we get some momentum? Maybe she want to go to the gym in the evening, but doesn't want to go by herself. Maybe I'll go with her. I know I went in the morning. Maybe I'll do something different in the evening. Maybe I'll just, walk on a treadmill with her. You know what I mean? Do something. So I feel like there's some momentum that probably could use.
Yeah. That's good.
In that regard with her in the evenings. So
that's good.
But I think it's a great thought to leave everybody on as we begin this year. It's not just like, I think the challenge is how do you do something different this year so that you can have a different year?
Yeah.
I think the biggest fallacy that we buy into is that my year is magically going to become different.
Yeah.
Your year will not become different.
If you don't become different.
You have to do something. You have to change something, right? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expect a new result. You've got to change something. And so I think the fast, like I just want to encourage you, if you're watching this, if you're part of our church community, whether it's local or online or remote, and maybe you don't do this, maybe even are part of another church community, maybe you just watch these podcasts or listen every once in a while. Even if they're not doing it, jump on and do something. We've got all kinds of resources on our website on this. There's daily devotional that you can do. So on top of my other reading stuff, I'll be doing those. It's daily devotional. I'm always very consistent during a fast to journal. So I will journal probably every day in the fast. Like I just kind of recommit myself to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then sometimes because of time and other things is why I get lazy.
Yeah.
But in a season of fasting and prayer, I usually am very consistent in journaling. And so try to pick up some of these disciplines and then ask that question. I think it's a great way to I think a great way to do that is just to say, what area do I want momentum in this year? Whatever that is, I'm gonna have to do something different.
Yeah. That's good.
It's a good thought.
That's good.
It's a good thought.
Yeah.
So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here's to another year of, we'll have, I'm sure, some incredible conversations. We'll talk about some really challenging things. We got some incredible content coming up. We have a series that we're going to do where we're going to hit all of the spicy topics at the church.
The year is going to be fun.
It is, and we are going to be on this podcast.
Yep. We
are going to be questions, comments, things that people will submit. We're going to literally put up our podcast at thex.church at church.
Yep.
We've kind of had this a lot of times. It's a separate conversation. We're going to merge them.
Yep.
And people are going to have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we're going to sit on here and answer them in dialogue. So there's going to be some incredible conversations that we're going to have around the table this year, and I look forward to it this year.
I love it. I love that we get to do this.
Yeah.
And we've not mentioned this in a while, but kick the year off right if you've not done it yet, and rate and review this podcast.
Yes.
It would mean the world to us. Get the word out.
Literally, stop and go leave a review on Apple or Spotify.
Yep.
That'd be awesome.
5 stars.
That'd be good.
Send us an email, podcast@thex.church, and share this around with someone that you think it would encourage or provoke. And until next week, we'll see them.